vampires, werewolves, the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot. Today we're going over myths of the garage door. Welcome to the Garage Authority Podcast, powered by A1. I'm Jon Phillips, your host, and today we have a very special guest, Tommy Mello. I'm kidding. It's Tom Melendez.
Just a little different, right? Just a little different.
Mello, Melendez. It mixes in.
You know,
no
I'm
one
pretty
can
mellow myself.
Yes,
so.
I couldn't tell the difference. I kind of got a little nervous when you walked in. I was like, it's Tom. Oh, no, that's the different Tommy.
Yeah, well, instead of looking up like this, you look like that.
And I looked at a normal height. They're probably going to have to cut this out, but Tommy's just a freak. That guy's too tall.
Well, this is what Tommy looks like when he gets a darker tan.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Yeah, pinnacle trips. That's what he looks like. But today we're going over garage door myths homeowners still believe. Now, the reason that I wanted to bring Mr. Melendez on is because he is a national training coach. So what Tom does is he goes to markets and actually rides in the truck with technicians to get them better at communicating how a spring actually works and the technical work that goes into it. So you being across the entire country kind of sets you up as not just in Phoenix where we're at, but an expert, because you've heard all the stories from all the clients from the West Coast to the Midwest to the East Coast, because different areas have different perceptions about a garage door. So I feel like you've heard all of that in these myths.
Yeah, so it's funny because I was a technician once, and you always have to overcome these myths. People believe something, and you have to resist the urge to say, no, that's not true, you're wrong.
Right.
And just educate, right? And it's true. When you go to different markets, there's, a whole different culture. It's still obviously the United States, but there's a different culture, different belief system. There's different companies that have built different myths with these clients.
Ooh.
And so when we come there, sometimes we're having to deal with entrenched companies who people are like, well, that's what they told us. And we're like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but they have been not being entirely truthful.
Just misguided.
Just misguided.
Just misguided.
Just misguided. So, I mean, it's something where you just collect all these stories, and I like to share them with all these different techs when I go to different markets, because it's important for them to know what's out there.
Right. So what would you say is the biggest myth you hear from homeowners? Even though it's different areas like we talked about, what's the one across the board where it's like, no, that's not a thing?
Gosh, I've got a lot, but I'm actually gonna have to give you two, because these are probably the most common that I keep running into. One is when we start telling customers, what's impending. And they hit us with it's ran fine for 15 years, absolutely no problems. And the myth that also leads into this is, I'll wait till it breaks. There's the myth of, if I don't see it physically broken, that it's absolutely fine. And this is where a lot of our clients tend to find themselves in a really sticky situation. They're calling us out, and it's really bad news.
Yeah, tarred and feathered as far as a sticky situation.
Yeah. And so the garage door is a weird kind of entity. And in fact, I attribute it to like a car, right? So you're taught from a very young age, change your oil every 3,000 to 6,000 miles, right?
Right.
Now, what happens if you don't change that oil and you get to 10,000 miles? Will the car suddenly stop?
My grandma Mary knows.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because she let me borrow her Toyota Camry, and I did not get educated on that, and I ran that thing into the dirt, and she had to pick me up on a country road with a car dolly, because she's one of those farm grandmas where she can. And the fact she turned around and forgave me so quick for essentially ruining that motor is, I love you, Grandma.
But that's my point, right? And on a similar note, my very first car I inherited from my aunt, who, love you to death, is awful at maintaining cars, okay? So this car that I got, very, very high-end, let me tell you, 88 Dodge Dynasty.
There we go.
You've never heard of that car, you're right there with everybody else. Now, this is the kind of car that would blow white smoke out the back, and when I stopped at a red light, it would be enclosed in this cloud. It would disappear at the intersection. I'd have to drive to be able to be seen. So that's an example, right, of the car wasn't maintained well at all. Probably an average of 10 to 15,000 miles between oil changes. Now, did the car run though? Yeah. You know what I got stuck with? Spending my college money to rebuild that engine.
Yeah, because when it went down, it went down.
It went down hard. I didn't just throw one rod, I threw two rods.
Two rods.
At the same time, so this is what happens with these myths is that, well, it's ran fine for 15 years or 10 years or whatever the longevity is because it hasn't reared its ugly head yet. And all of a sudden, we're in the situation where there has to be major work done.
One myth that I see is very common is why do people think that weight equals strength? And specifically, I'm going to these like large doors and the perception of them.
Yeah.
Wood overlays.
It's funny because that's very case by case and situational, right? Because you look at something like a pan door versus a steel back, and steel back is much heavier.
Yes.
And also, the way it's built is stronger, but that's the ticket, is how it's built, the parts that go with it, right? There's just I think we run into clientele who, I mean, based on their experience, that has been true. So why wouldn't it be true here?
Right.
You know? So again, it goes back to just the education part of it. I love that. One of the great things that I love to coach on is you get to be a teacher.
Right.
You know, we are not the company who comes in and looks around, makes a visual diagnosis, and that's it. That's where we stop, and then we give solutions. That's not what we do. I want the customer, and I want the techs, you know, who I train, I want their goal to be as concise as possible, but what you know, they should know.
Yeah.
Right? You know, there was a auto shop that does something very similar to what we do. And I was trying to find a new auto shop because my guy disappeared. I don't know where he went.
Right.
And I trusted him, and I needed to find somewhere else. Well, this auto shop, not only did the technician come out and talk to me personally about what's going on, they sent me videos, and they showed me pictures. And
Or
they
cameras,
educated on what was going wrong and where it should be. And I was like, okay, you guys aren't the cheapest, but I really appreciated knowing like exactly what you're seeing and what it should look like and why this is wrong. So the education part of that is, I think it's one of those things that I'm most proud of, especially being a former teacher.
Yeah. And honestly, even if you don't go with that company or go with us that's willing to go on that education, at least you know 100% where you stand.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Absolutely.
I mean, I will all day, every day go to someone's house and do a full inspection on the door if you want me to. I have over 150 point tune-up. Believe it or not, yes, that's how in-depth we can get with a tune-up. And, dude, as long as you know where you stand and the comfortability of you as the homeowner to make that decision, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But you are going to know everything about that door before I leave. Now, one thing that we've been harping on a lot, and this seems to be of big miscommunication with the myth on it, is I know that a steel back door, so steel front, some sort of insulation, steel back, it's the best bang for your buck and it's going to last the longest compared to going to extremes of wood overlay with all the maintenance that takes in a pan door that just kind of every time it goes through the track.
Yep.
Is insulation always needed?
It's hard for me to say it's not always needed because I have a steel back on my house.
Yeah.
And I had a pan door before, which every time I think about a pan door, all I think about is an empty soda can or a paperclip bending back and forth. What is it? What happens when you do that too much?
It's going to crack.
That's it, right? Since I've had my steel back, I have a hard time telling customers, this isn't going to benefit you. I just don't see it. And there's a couple of stories that come to mind that are very powerful for me. And I use these stories when I was in the field because it mattered to me situationally. So for Desiree and me, our laundry units are in the garage. And our garage faces east. So first thing in the morning, we're already getting the sun in the summertime. It is miserable.
You don't have to spend money on a sauna.
Well, if we had moisture here in Arizona, that would be true. But anyway, we were fortunate to get a steel back put in, and it's just changed.
Yeah.
Like almost really night and day how we view our garage and spending time in there. And even when it gets a little chilly here in the wintertime, it's so much more comfortable, and it's quiet.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's quiet. But here's something that really always stuck with me. I love sharing this story because it talks about the structural integrity and the protection of it.
Yes.
Now, obviously, steel backs do have a limit. They're not bulletproof, right? Although some might say it is. But anyway, I remember we sold a steel back to this lady. This is in Tempe. And we were talking about the insulation. She goes, I just want the strongest door that I can possibly have. And I was like, really? What makes you say that? And she says, well, in this neighborhood, we've been having several break-ins, brazen break-ins. They're not like somebody just like jimmying a lock or something.
Yeah.
What these
Smash,
people
crash, bash through, hit everything and run.
They were taking what looked like a grinder, making T-cuts on the top panel,
Ooh.
bending out pan doors because they're hollow.
Yeah.
And just pulling on the cord, and then they can open the garage. Like, that's pretty brazen, right? That's not quiet. So we said, well, look, steel back is the strongest door on the market that you can put on your house, right? So let's do that. She goes, great. Talked to her about how it's layered and, the 2 inches of insulation. There's steel on the front and back, tough door. So no joke, 2-3 weeks later, she calls us back and she wants a replacement panel. And we're like, oh no, did you hit your door? Are you okay? And she's like, no. We got hit again in my neighborhood. My neighbor's house was burglarized. She said, my door, the top panel is pretty mangled, but I don't know if it just gave that much more of a problem, if it was just
that's it.
That much more of a deterrent, but they quit. They mangled her top panel, but her house was safe.
To think the psychology of a burglar, and if they're being brazen, they're being loud, and the reason they're being loud is because they're trying to be fast.
Yes.
And because I know that whenever we say, hey, yeah, they're going to cut through the door, they're like, well, if they cut through the front of it, it'll cut through the back of it. It's not that it's going to stand up to it. It's that it takes more time, and they don't want to risk more time being there.
Right.
So that extra bit of steel, that foam insulation that they're dealing with, a little strut on the back to where instead of one cut, we're having to do it 3 times.
Yep.
It's buying time. And that's exactly what happened in that situation.
So I'll do you one better. After we heard that, I had one of my guys take a sample panel out in our shop. We took a grinder. We said, I wonder how hard it is to cut into this. It's pretty dang difficult.
Yeah.
It takes time.
Yeah.
That was a fun little experiment we did.
Especially if you're trying to reach through through jagged metal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you want to make sure the cut's right. So anything that can be of any inconvenience, that's the same with garage door armor. You know what I mean? I think because I work in garage doors, if you give me enough time, kind of like whenever you lock your keys in the car, we can hook around. But the fact that it's blocking someone for that quicker than 15 seconds and it's taking them, they're not going to spend more than a minute trying. They're going to move to the next house.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're not trying to cause that much attention, ironic being that they're using grinders. But, it's just one of those things where, ever since I put a steel back on my house, the comfort level is there, but I feel more secure. I mean, it's the biggest hole in my home.
Right. Big enough to drive a car through.
Absolutely. And I've got some stories about that too. So
what myth has even surprised you that you've ran into on your travels? Where you're just like, what?
Well, so it's not that it's a single one-off thing that surprises me. The surprise is that it's so widespread. And this is it right here. And this is hard for a lot of customers to hear. That I got this cheap price. The number looks really friendly. Therefore, I'm getting a good deal. That one is very surprising to me because, no matter what neighborhood you're in, what you drive, where you come from, your demographic, it doesn't matter. There seems to be that same myth across the board. If I can get it cheap, I'm getting a good deal. And it's just not true.
You know, one phrase that I really like is a cheap price is the Trojan horse to regret.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, when I talk to people about this, and they always laugh at me, I ask them, like, can you get steak at Denny's in some form? You sure can. You sure can, and it's pretty cheap, right? Yeah. But why do people go to a place like a fancy steakhouse, like here in Phoenix, like Firebirds?
Yeah.
You know, why do people go there and spend literally 10, 20 times as much? I mean, think about what you're getting. Think about what you get, the meat that you'll get at Denny's. No offense, Denny's. You know, hey, I like me a good scramble.
Yeah.
But versus when you go to a place like Firebirds and you get that ribeye or that porterhouse slapped right in front of you from somebody who is very professional. If you have anything that's wrong, they're going to take care of it.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're priced to stand by their product and their customers. And that's true for any industry in any product. If you are doing a job that we're doing significantly less than us, you are sacrificing somewhere.
Right.
And it may not be overt. You may not see it right up front. You're going to find out. We run into it all the time.
Goodness. Now, I always want to give power to homeowners on where they can kind of fact check and do research, because I do want people to feel comfortable. Sure. Maybe the first time that I go in there, and because of the fact I do have that 150, I think it's 54-point inspection now, where it's a lot of words, it's a lot of information, our process and what we have to offer. Like, it can be a lot of information, and sometimes people just need to digest that. Yeah. So where would you recommend that they are able to fact check not only us, but any home service? Like, how do you go about research, and where can they fact check this stuff?
You know, I feel like there's certain tools you can use, like, for example, Google. Who doesn't use Google to figure out where they're going to eat, what service they're going to get, right? So obviously, you know, your online resources are there. But I would pay close attention to even something as simple as, let me call these 3 places. Who had the most professional, most reliable? And I'll even say this, call them a couple of times.
See if it's consistent.
See if it's consistent. See if they answer sometimes and sometimes not. I draw on my own experience as a homeowner. I've had AC unit replaced. I've had turf put in. I've had work done on my own.
Right.
And being on this side of the fence of home services, I look for certain things that, you know, we hold dear to us here at A1 for other companies. Like, are you going to educate me, or are you going to do the quick little, hey, I could do this for this much. Okay, here, you sign here. That's a huge turnoff for me.
Yeah.
Right? So the first thing I'm looking at is, all right, do you have good ratings? Then I want to feel the experience. Is this true? Or is this kind of like a front?
Right.
You know, as soon as the call is booked, now whoever comes over, it's just, hey, whatever.
Right.
Is the consistency there or not? Look to see if you're getting educated. Are they being thorough? Are they using tools to prove, like, hey, this is what's going on. Here's the proof right here.
Yeah.
Something as simple as, like, what we do, weigh the door, knowing how heavy the door is. I ran into a customer who they were quoted over the phone price for springs, and they even went as far to tell them what kind of springs they're going to put up there. Oh, put up, 218s, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, my.
And
that's brazen to me.
It is. But to some customers who aren't educated, it sounds like, oh, you know what you're talking about. Well, luckily we had a tech there at the same time. And the tech said, let me show you something. Weighed the door, showed that the ones that they were recommending were for a much lighter door. took the customer out to our van, showed all the different springs, and said, here, we're going to do this spring and this spring for your door because it weighs this much.
And I can show you on this app as well.
And then went even further and said, notice how these two springs are not exactly the same size. That's on purpose. That's how I'm going to get to the accuracy of your door. And they were just like, wow.
Yeah, I think that itself is the myth that you can diagnose or tell exactly what a door needs over the phone.
Drives me mad.
I'm gonna put a hard stop, and I will literally debate with anyone in this entire nation that is a garage door expert. No, you cannot. You need eyes on. You need to touch, feel, weigh, check the drum, check the track, check the headspace, height, width, all of it, before you even consider saying this spring works.
100%.
Brother, it's been absolutely fantastic having you on. I'm really excited because he has a break from traveling, so we get to have him on a few more times because, trust me, this guy is a wealth of knowledge, and I can't wait to show off everything that this guy can inform you on. Mr. Tom, thank you so much for coming on, brother.
Oh, man, thank you for having me.